In July 2002, the largest bankruptcy in American history wasn't filed by a struggling startup. It was filed by a company that claimed $104 billion in assets just weeks before. But here's what I noticed first. Nobody saw it coming. Not the analysts, not the auditors, not the regulators who were supposed to be watching. And I hate coincidences, but I hate lies more. This wasn't incompetence. This was industrial-scale fraud, and it took years of deliberate deception to pull off. Let's rewind to the 1990s. The internet boom was real. Phone companies were dinosaurs, or so everyone thought. Bernie Ebbers, a former basketball player turned CEO, saw an opportunity. He built WorldCom from nothing into a telecom powerhouse through aggressive acquisitions. By 2000, it was the second largest long-distance carrier in America. The problem, growth stopped. The dot-com crash hit in 2000 and 2001. Suddenly, the telecom industry looked like every other sector, bloated, overvalued, bleeding cash. Investors wanted growth. Ebbers promised it, but the company couldn't deliver it honestly. So in 2001, something shifted. The accounting started getting creative, not slightly creative, massively creative. The finance team, led by CFO Scott Sullivan, began capitalizing normal operating expenses as capital investments. Translation: they buried costs that should have appeared on quarterly reports. Here's how it worked. When WorldCom paid other carriers to use their network lines, those costs should have been expenses. Instead, Sullivan's team capitalized them, treated them like long-term assets. This moved billions in costs off the income statement and buried them on the balance sheet. The effect was immediate and intoxicating. Profit margins looked healthy, losses vanished on paper. The stock price stayed elevated. Investors believed the story. Analysts kept rating it a buy, and Ebbers kept cashing out his stock options over $140 million worth. But here's the thing about fraud at scale. It needs constant feeding. By 2002, the adjustments weren't thousands or millions anymore. They were in the billions. Sullivan and his team had created a machine that couldn't stop without collapsing. Then a junior accountant named Cynthia Cooper did something rare. She asked questions. In early 2002, she started digging into those capital expenditures. She found nothing to support them. No contracts, no documentation, just entries in a system designed to hide them. Cooper went to the audit committee. She presented the evidence. In June 2002, WorldCom announced it would restate earnings, nearly $4 billion in fraudulent adjustments. But that number kept growing. By August, it had exploded to $11 billion, then $15 billion. The stock collapsed. Trading was halted. Investors who'd believed the story watched their portfolios get obliterated. Retirement funds, pension plans, employees who'd taken the company at its word lost everything. On July 21, 2002, WorldCom filed for Chapter 11. It was the largest corporate bankruptcy in American history. Over $100 billion in assets. Gone. Not because the company was bad at business, but because its leadership chose fraud. Ebbers was arrested in 2002. Sullivan cooperated with prosecutors and got a reduced sentence. The CFO served 5 years. Ebbers, he was convicted in 2005 of fraud, conspiracy, and filing false documents. He got 25 years. He died in prison in 2020. The auditors, Arthur Andersen, one of the big 5 accounting firms, had signed off on WorldCom's books. They claimed they missed the fraud. The firm collapsed under the scandal, not just from this case, but from their role in Enron before it. They were done. Here's what kills me. The fraud wasn't sophisticated. No offshore accounts. No shell companies. Just basic accounting manipulation that should have been caught immediately by people whose literal job was to catch it. But they didn't want to look too hard. WorldCom eventually emerged from bankruptcy as MCI. It limped along for years before being acquired by Verizon in 2006. Nothing remained of Ebbers' empire except lawsuits, prison sentences, and a case study in what happens when ambition meets dishonesty. The real lesson isn't that fraud happens. It's that it happens because incentives are broken. When stock options matter more than actual earnings, when growth is demanded but can't be delivered, when auditors are paid by the companies they're supposed to scrutinize, the math points in one direction. Cynthia Cooper became a whistleblower. She won a lawsuit and got her settlement. But she also got something else, a reputation as someone who couldn't be bought. That's worth more than money to people who still believe in rules. WorldCom is a case study in how fast a giant can fall when the foundation is rotten. And it's not alone. The pattern keeps repeating. Different names, same story. Subscribe so you don't miss when it happens next. Subscribe. Every week we break down the next billion-dollar lie before the system catches up.